Well, an official welcome to everyone here today. We want to welcome all the Towson University alumni, students, faculty, staff, and friends. I'm Steve Rosenfeld, the Director of Alumni Communications and Recognition. I want to really thank you all for joining us today for this webinar, Beyond the Classroom. We are very excited about today's event, which is co-sponsored by the Towson University College of Education. And to start, I'd like to welcome Dean Laurie Mullen from the College of Education, who has a few words of welcome for you this afternoon. Dean Mullen?
Thank you, Steve, and hello, everyone. I wish that we could officially welcome both Mark and Stacy, who are both Towson alumni, back to campus. We will soon, very, very soon. But I'm thrilled to have them virtually here today. Pete, I don't know if you're a Towson grad, but if you're not, there's still time, as I always say. So welcome to everybody. I know people are still coming in. I'm really excited for this this presentation today. My hope for all of us is that we either learn or remind ourselves that what happens in classrooms in Maryland is really important, but there's a lot of great community assets, including the Maryland Science Center and others, that can advance and support what goes on in our classrooms. And the day that we think that the only knowledge that is truly important occurs in schools only, in my opinion, is a sad day, because our communities have so much to offer, not only us as professionals, but the children and youth that we work with. So again, to our panelists, welcome. We're so glad you're here, and we are really excited to hear what you have to say. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dean Mullen. I really appreciate you being here and for your support. Before I introduce today's experts, I wanted to share a few housekeeping notes. This session will be recorded and it will be shared with all event registrants when it is finalized. Attendees will remain muted throughout the discussion. And if you have any questions, please use the chat function at the bottom of your window and direct your questions to everyone, and I will ask the questions on your behalf at the conclusion of the presentation. I'd now like to introduce our panelists. From the region's leading provider of informal science education, obviously the Maryland Science Center. First, we want to start with Mr. Mark J. Potter. Mark has served as the president and CEO of the Maryland Science Center since 2017. Under his leadership, the Science Center has achieved the formulation of a comprehensive strategic plan, has experienced an increase in public and private support, created 3 new long-term exhibits, added several new educational programs, completed a renovation of the center's IMAX theater, and retired long-term debt, among other great achievements. Mark was born and raised in Baltimore and received his bachelor's degree in history with a concentration in secondary education from Towson University in 1984, and earned a master's degree in education administration from TU in 1991. Joining Mark today will be Stacy Prinzing and Pete Yanconi. Stacy has served multiple roles at the Science Center over the last 18 years and is currently the Director of Education. Stacy oversees a myriad of staff and programs serving visitors and school students from birth through adult. She earned a master's degree in early childhood education from Towson University. Pete became a middle school teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools after completing an undergraduate degree in Earth and Planetary Science at the Johns Hopkins University. He joined the Maryland Science Center for summer employment just as it opened in 1976 and has remained there ever since, where he is now the senior educator. Pete has contributed to, participated in, and observed decades of curriculum reform implemented at the local, state, and national level. We're going to start with Mark. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to all of you for joining us today for this webinar. I do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge Dean Laurie Mullen for her dedication to and leadership of the College of Education these past 5 years. Laurie's passion for teacher training is recognized throughout the higher education community and certainly within education circles here in Maryland. As a Towson University alum, I'm so proud to have Dean Mullen lead our college, especially during these difficult times. And while he's probably not on the call, I do want to congratulate Dean Dave Banco of the Fisher College of Science and Mathematics and his entire team on the long overdue and recently opened world-class science complex. This state-of-the-art facility will serve the next generation of Tiger scientists on their journey of research and discovery. So congratulations again to Dave and the entire Fisher College family. And finally, thanks to Steve Rosenfeld, Director of Alumni Communications, for organizing today's webinar. Pete and Stacy will share with you shortly the specifics of why the Maryland Science Center continues to be a valued resource for teachers across Maryland and beyond. First, please allow me to provide you with a little bit of background about the Maryland Science Center and informal education. The Maryland Science Center is a private nonprofit. We were founded as the Maryland Academy of Sciences in 1797. With the opening of the Maryland Science Center in 1976, the Academy realized its dream of a physical space dedicated to science discovery and wonder. So 45 years later, we are the region's largest provider of informal science education. We live our mission every day to inspire, empower, and engage here at our Inner Harbor location and in schools and community centers across Maryland and beyond. In a normal year, the Science Center will serve over 400,000 people, both inside and outside the walls of our Baltimore facility. We are a particular resource for teachers and school systems through our many outreach programs. More on those from Pete and Stacy in a few minutes. And we're very proud of our long-running free admission program, where we provide free admission to all Maryland school children who visit us as part of a field trip. And as many of you know, free admission is always granted to Maryland school teachers, regardless of when you visit. Just a few words about the pandemic's impact on Science Center programs. Obviously, the COVID crisis has presented some particular challenges in providing services to schools. Fortunately, we're blessed to have a talented and innovative staff of educators who quickly pivoted our programs from in-person offerings to virtual educational opportunities. I'm sure many of you have taken advantage of these unique online offerings. In fact, to date, over 875,000 people have viewed at least one of our online activities. As field trips to the Science Center will not happen this year, we're providing free admission to all Maryland school children who visit the Science Center through June 30th. And we're also offering several virtual traveling science programs free of charge to teachers. More on that later as well. While operating at 25% capacity, the Science Center is open to the public. And for those of you who have visited, you know that our building is quite vast, so social distancing is not a problem. We do ask guests to follow our strict protocols. As I mentioned, the Science Center is the region's largest provider of informal science education. But what is informal science education or informal education in general? In a nutshell, informal education is usually classified as learning that takes place outside of the classroom. Examples of these experiences include class field trips, in-school presentations by organizations like the Science Center, after-school programs, and other worthwhile activities that deviate from the classroom experience but still provide a quality educational experience for students. Science centers across the world have been leaders in providing informal education, and for the last 50 years have led the way in a new kind of participatory informal education. While natural history museums have been in existence for well over a century, the hands-on experiential science centers of today were founded in the late 1960s and early 70s. These institutions were pioneers in a new kind of learning. As Sheila Grinnell pointed out in her book, A Place of Learning Science, these new science centers, such as the Exploratorium in San Francisco and the Ontario Science Center near Toronto, both opening in 1969, and our Science Center, founded in the mid-70s, avoided historical and industrial collections in favor of exhibits and programs designed to communicate basic science in terms readily accessible to visitors. It was this change from static displays and no-touch exhibits to experiential hands-on learning that has made the Science Center experience of today so attractive and essential to educators, primarily teachers of elementary and middle school students. Through this approach, Science Centers can provide the initial spark in a child for a lifelong interest in STEM. For many teachers, Science Centers have been a tremendous resource that complements in-classroom STEM instruction. For our part, the Maryland Science Center has always been part of the broader education community beyond the classroom. We're not a replacement for in-science school instruction, but rather a complement to the classroom curriculum. We're a valued and dependable resource for teachers and our larger community, and we routinely partner with schools and school systems, collaborating with educators so that we provide exhibits inside the building and outreach programs outside our walls that reflect the current science education standards and paradigms. I think that all of us can agree that informal learning, especially learning that takes place out of the physical school facility, is extremely valuable and can provide for inspiring and memorable opportunities and experiences for our students. While we're here today to highlight what we do at the Maryland Science Center, please know that we're blessed to have multiple cultural institutions and organizations in Maryland who provide outstanding informal learning programming. The Maryland State Department of Education provides annual grants to nonprofit organizations, such as the Science Center, to provide enriching educational programs that cannot be replicated in the classroom. Collectively, these programs are known as the State Aided Educational Institutions Program, SAI for short. Like the Science Center, these organizations provide engaging, hands-on, experiential learning opportunities that support the state's curricular and educational goals and priorities. Presently, 56 programs are funded across the state. You can find the list on the State Department of Education's website. While I hope you bring your class to the Science Center or invite us to visit your school or classroom, I certainly hope that as present and future teachers, you take advantage of the many opportunities available from others. Joining us from our legendary Dinosaur Mysteries exhibit is our senior educator, Pete Yanconi. Pete's been a member of the Science Center staff since we opened our doors in 1976. As senior educator, Pete liaisons with our many partners in the education community, moderates our Scientific Educational Council, and serves as a senior member of staff. Joining Pete is a fellow Tiger, our Director of Education, Stacy Prinzing. Stacy manages our education department, including the development of new programs, and coordinates our outreach efforts outside of the building, to name a few of Stacy's responsibilities. So Stacy and Pete, take it away.
Here I am, sitting in the midst of Dinosaur Mysteries, the experiential dinosaur age exhibit, which we maintain here at the Maryland Science Center as one of the more popular and initial steps into STEM informal education for our younger visitors. But there's plenty here for adults to experience too. And in that context, this notion of informal education, whether it's STEM education or cultural education, historical education, is a topic of enthusiastic research, especially over the past decade and a half. Some of that research is about defining terms, and so as a result, informal education kind of fits in a Venn diagram opposed to formal education. But there's a big intersection between them. And in that space, I think for our purposes today, what we want to consider is that in formal education, we're thinking about institutional, sequential education where you progress through a curriculum. There's a hierarchy of management. And the most critical feature, the one that always I hold first in my mind, is that in formal education, there's an evaluation, but you get a grade. And there's an old saying around science centers that you can't fail the museum, that there's evaluation being done here continuously, but nobody's going to give you a grade for whether or not you passed the museum on your visit. In contrast, informal experiences tend to go by different names. It's not just informal anymore. Sometimes it's referred to as non-formal, or another term is lifelong learning, or even free choice learning. And that hints at some of the distinction between formal, because informal learning is by and large voluntary. It's flexible. You step in and out as your interest or time permits. Self-motivated is probably the strongest element of the definition. You're there participating, learning because you elect to be, not because you have to be, not because it's mandated that you be there or somebody is making you do it. Informal learning is independent. What you're doing in the same setting may be very different, and what you're learning and carrying away from the experience may be very different than the person standing next to you or the person who follows behind you. And just to re-emphasize, it's non-graded. Now, for those of you who are still not quite certain about informal learning, let me just emphasize this, that it's not the setting. It's not about whether you're sitting at a desk or not. It's not whether or not there are charts or maps hanging on the walls. It's really all about the motivation and the circumstance that brought you there. In the course of my time and experience here at Maryland Science Center, I've certainly seen teachers bringing groups of students here, teachers who have sent groups of students here, and I've been witness to the opportunity that was lost, or the opportunity that was used to great effect in those visits. Key elements to make that happen are whether or not teachers are thinking and prepared for what the experience is here at the Science Center. It is informal, but it can be formal. I've certainly seen teachers leading groups of students through here in tow, having a formal experience in our museum. It's about how the opportunity is used and what the experience is for those students. But here's some things to keep in mind. If you really want to have an experience at the Maryland Science Center, in fact, at almost any informal education or cultural facility, you want to keep things like this in mind. First of all, you want to stop thinking of your visit here as you would if you were making a personal visit, because it just doesn't work the same way. When you're working through having your informal experience, you can't magnify or amplify that for an entire class or a set of classes. Just logistically, it doesn't work. Moving through the building, when you're moving through on your own, you pick a path and you take it. But when you have 30 or 130 students in tow, you can't get them all in the elevator. You have to use the stairs, and you can't have everybody take a turn on the energy bicycle by waiting for the person in front of it. I mean, it just doesn't work. This is an experiential, a hands-on, body-on kinesthetic experience that means that you have to think differently about the visit. You also need to think about how much time it takes to interact. It's not about reading text and moving on. It's not about looking at a piece of art and moving to the right to see the next piece of art. It takes time for people to have the experience, to witness the phenomena, to consider what they think about the phenomena and draw conclusions. And then in the ultimate sense, what you want to leave room for is that affective opportunity. The fact that you've taken students out of the classroom, one of the more valuable consequences of that is the opportunity for them to experience something that is not available in the classroom, and that often turns out to be something that is inspirational, creates that aspirational spark for them to consider careers in the field, to consider their relationship to the content or the phenomena that they've observed, to make bigger connections, and hustling them through the museum to stay on schedule is not leaving room for that to happen. But we understand the limitations that are there, and so the staff is here to support you in that effort. And that's the kind of thing that I'm leaving for Stacy to describe to you. So let me turn this over to Stacy at this point.
All right, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are we at the Maryland Science Center, we do a lot of things. We do a lot of things with a lot of different people, with a lot of different groups. We work with in-state schools, we work with out-of-state schools, we work with public schools, private schools, schools that are focused on children with special needs, all the way through to adults. And I guess the thing that I would love for you to understand most is that the Maryland Science Center is here for you as teachers or as future educators. We want to be your partners. We are constantly trying to be your partners. And one of the things that for us is a real benefit is that we don't have to necessarily play by the same curriculum rules. We can create things that fit and support your curriculum, but don't necessarily have to fit in all of the slots. So it gives us a little more freedom. It gives us a little bit more opportunity to respond as you need things. But what I hope in what I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to talk to you about what it is we do. I hope that you find some sort of inspiration and some sort of opportunity for how it is that we can help you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we do when we are open and you can walk in here with your kids, or we can come to you, and then how we've pivoted and some immediate opportunities that may exist at this point. So first, I'll talk a little bit about our programming. So we have, during a normal school year, we welcome schools. We welcome all Maryland state, all schools in the state of Maryland for free. And you can just come and do a museum visit once you've made a reservation. For folks who want a little bit more beyond that, we have an entire menu of programs that go from pre-K all the way through to 12th grade. And those are enrichment experiences that schools can sign up for an additional fee. And those are programs that are hands-on, they're experiential, and they run the gamut from everything from chemistry programs to programs in our planetarium. So we have programs for all ages and all groups. And we think a lot about your curriculum. We've spent a lot of time with the next generation science standards. We spent a lot of time with the Common Core math to look and see how can we help and support you. And one of the things that we've learned in the past couple of years is that we were doing great things, but we weren't necessarily telling you that we were paying attention to these programs, and that many teachers needed to be able to make a case for their field trip. So that information is actually on our website. There's a resource section in the Learn tab. And in there, we've told you which programs match the next generation science standards. We also have a couple Common Core math linked programs in there that would augment a field trip. So that information is there, and it's there for teachers, and it's there. It was our response to feedback. We came to understand that teachers needed that, and so we've provided it. We also have an outreach program. Our outreach program does a couple different things. They go out and they present assembly programs to up to 250. They present classroom programs. And then we also have a program we call Ready, Set, Go, which works with Head Start in Baltimore City, where we go into Head Start every single month and we deliver programming to about 80 Head Start classrooms. And those are the basic opportunities that we have for school groups. One of the more outside the box things is that we actually have an overnight program that majority of it is for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, but on 2 or 3 dates a year, we open that to teachers, and we've had teachers use it to bring a group of kids. We even have a group from Anne Arundel County, the Anne Arundel County STEM program, last year and a half ago at this point, brought their entire incoming 6th grade STEM students in a particular program they had, and we created a special experience for them. So they saw something, asked us if we could sort of pivot it to meet their needs more specifically, and it worked. The scale of what they wanted worked, and we were able to pull that off. So that's the thing to hear that freedom in our experience to pivot, to meet your needs. We write it in our school group guide. We say, if you don't see what you want, please ask, please talk to us. We are more than happy to work with folks. We're more than happy to work with a group that maybe wants to take a 3rd grade class, but they have high school kids with special needs and they think that that's maybe the right content, but can we adjust it to meet the needs of their group? So there are a lot of ways that we are more than willing to talk through what we can do for teachers. We also, at various points of the year, have teacher education opportunities. We have teacher opportunities to that are for early childhood. We do a lot of those, and we've even been able to pivot some of those to online. And then a lot of times we have content-based. But that's in a normal year, and we're not sure when you'll be able to come back for field trips. So one of the things that we did this year very quickly is that we've created a menu of virtual opportunities. These virtual opportunities cover a whole gamut of things. We have totally virtual opportunities where we will jump on Zoom or Google Classrooms or whatever platform you're using, and we will engage with you. We have programs that are pre-recorded programs we've created that have some follow-up activities and things that can be done solely at home. So if kids are at home and you just can turn on the program and let it run. Kids back in school. Some of our private schools are back and our public schools are starting to work their work. So we do have some programs where we will send you materials and then we will jump on your platform and we will lead a class that you maybe would have taken here, and we will show kids, you know, just a different experience for a group of kids who are back in their classroom. So there's a variety of programs. There are programs that cost. Some of our programs that use more live presentation, obviously there's a staff cost for that. So those have a cost. The cost is actually the same as if you were to bring a group of 30 here and take a class. But we also have some free programs. We wanted to really honor our commitment to letting Maryland school children in for free, as Mark said. And so we have some virtual school programs. We have 2 in particular. They are a human body program for K to 5 and a program called Newton's Playground, a sort of physics-based program. And so those are completely free. You just have to register, provide the correct information, and we will give you access to those, and you can, on your own time, decide when you want to do that with your kids. But we also, at this point, we recognize that this is the year of special cases. And so, again, we've done all kinds of interesting things for different groups. So again, I would encourage you that if you have an idea or a thought, to ask us. And if we can accommodate, we're more than happy to sort of talk about it. In general, all of our information is listed on our website. If you go to mdsci.org, there's a Learn tab, and that's where you'll see information for teachers. All of the information is there, as well as contact. If you want to book programs, it's there. I will also, when I'm done, put my contact information in the chat. If you just want to book programs, don't email me. I will be useless to help you. However, if you have something outside the box, if you have a question and you want to think about something that maybe could happen, I am more than happy to help you think about that and whether that's an opportunity that might exist. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Pete at this point.
Okay, so Pete has turned his video on and his audio on. So you've heard about a whole array of opportunities here as Maryland Science Center is flexibly responding to our circumstances and looking for opportunities to describe the new future that all of us are headed toward. As we conclude here today, one thing that, as I'm looking at the chat, there are some questions out there, but I'd like to pose a general challenge to our audience today because we've talked about a lot of capacity for informal learning to take place across our lives. Outside of our waking hours, we spend more time away from school than in school. And so most of us could probably, if we thought about it, summon up something, any one thing that we have learned informally. And I'll be broad in setting this challenge. I'll take anything. It doesn't have to be something from the Maryland Science Center. It doesn't have to be anything that you've learned in STEM even. I'll take any fact, any skill, any attitude, anything that you've learned and that you know for certain you've learned it informally. It wasn't in a setting where you were being graded on it or you had to be there. Because I pose this question because when I think about my own life, it has come to pass that I've learned lots of things informally, but two things in particular stick out in my mind. And one of them, more than any other, is that I know how to make a Brazilian monkey snare. And the only reason I know how to make a Brazilian monkey snare is that I went to the American Museum of Natural History and looked at a static display in their Amazonia exhibit where there was a diorama, a fabulous diorama that displayed a Brazilian monkey snare. And for those of you who aren't aware, the Brazilian monkey snare is that thing from the jungle movies where you're walking down a path and you step in it and the loop grabs you by the ankles and hangs you upside down. Well, that's what I was looking at. And I learned it so well that I went home after the museum visit and actually made a Brazilian monkey snare in the empty lot next to my parents' house and successfully caught the neighbor's kid. I was really disappointed that he wasn't lifted off the ground, but at the same time, the trigger worked and the mechanism worked. And to this day, I still know how to make a Brazilian monkey snare. So I'm curious if anybody out there has, if not a similar experience, any experience where you learned something and you know for certain you learned it informally. And if you'd like to share that with us, I'd be pleased to hear it.
So Pete, I see some comments coming in from some folks. I see gardening. Somebody learned that informally.
I do. I see gardening.
Yeah,
Gardening is a great. I learned a lot about gardening. I've learned about worms from gardening.
I see someone else say they learned that if you keep your video off during a webinar, it saves the bandwidth. I learned today.
The science of cooking. Listen, any kind of cooking. Most of us don't go to culinary school. You may elect to, and you may elect to do that informally. You're not even interested in the certification or the degree. But a lot of us learn cooking standing next to grandma or on a stool at the stove or from the Food Network.
I can say personally, Pete, that I actually learned that elephants have teeth the size of bricks, and they break off from the back and they keep moving kind of forward when they grow. But they have like two big teeth in the back, bottom and top, that are just massive.
Well, that's interesting because I don't think I've learned that fact in any class in zoology or paleontology. It just never came up.
Now you know.
Interesting list that's developing here.
So Pete, whenever you're ready, I do have some of the formal questions, but again, no rush, but whenever you're ready, let me know.
I'm content to just let the chat line be our fulfillment here. Let's let it go. You can take it.
All right. So first question actually comes from me. I actually know we have several students on the call today. And, you know, I had the pleasure, the reason I know about elephants, I had the pleasure of working at the Maryland Zoo for about 10 years. So I learned a lot of just crazy facts working there. But something I really learned right away, and I'm sure that some of the students probably haven't considered, that places like the Science Center, zoos and aquariums are amazing places of employment for formal educators or informal educators. can you all, either individually or one of you pick it up, talk about your journey that led you from your background and education degree to your current profession?
I'll go ahead and go. I will say I was a classroom teacher for 5 years, sort of while I was getting my master's degree at Towson, and then I finished my master's degree while I was here. And in the midst of that experience, I realized I loved the process of education, but there were some aspects of it I struggled a little bit with. But I really wanted to be committed to being a part of education. And so I started to look for other opportunities that would allow me to experience things where I still got to see that same moment for kids, and I still got to see kids be inspired and engaged, but maybe use my skills a little bit better. And so I ended up here after about 5 years of classroom teaching.
Well,
Mark, oh, go ahead.
I guess I'll go next. My journey to the chair at the Science Center here has been a little bit different as an educator. I started out as a teacher, a history teacher, American history, and I absolutely loved it. And for 17 years, I was a teacher and administrator for a local high school. And in the process, it was a private Catholic school, and in the private schools, you have development and alumni offices. They don't necessarily have those in most public schools. And somehow or another, I got talked into becoming the alumni development director. And in the process, picked up the skill set with fundraising and marketing and so forth. And after about 17 years, my last year, I was out of the classroom, concentrating on a major campaign. And I don't know, it was time to move on, and I moved on to another position at the Basilica Historic Trust. We were going through the restoration of the Basilica downtown and so forth. And I picked up another skill set with opening up gift shops and volunteer programs and so forth. And I guess after 10 years, I ended up coming back to education, coming back to the Science Center. And I say coming back because much like Pete, I'm a born and raised Baltimorean who remembers when this building was constructed, and it was a thrill to come back and work at one of the most important facilities in Maryland, really, here at the Inner Harbor. And I guess 3 years ago, I came back came here as Vice President of Advancement, and then was promoted. So a bit of a different journey, but throughout, education has been a part of it. Even at the Basilica, it was more history, but education has always been important to me. And I'm thrilled to be around such committed educators. And Pete and Stacy are two great examples of that.
What I could share with any of the students who are listening in is that there are, in fact, degree programs in museum education. And not making any judgment on them, I will say that very few of the people that come to join us on staff here at the Maryland Science Center come out of those programs. And instead, we find people who are rich in content knowledge and attracted to sharing that in practical, authentic ways. People who are adept at listening to an audience and determining where are the gaps that need to be closed, and instantly being able to make that judgment and then act on it. So we're an opportunity for educators, for formal educators, to join us on a part-time basis, as we have opportunities, as I joined, for summer employment, and then found my affinity in the programs and the people that I was working with. So it doesn't require specialized training, but it does require some adept educator skills, however you acquire them.
And Steve, I'd also add, we recognize that there are new teachers on the call and maybe present teachers, but there might be some teachers that are looking towards retirement. And we would love for those teachers to choose the Maryland Science Center as a possible place to volunteer. We have a host of volunteers. Many are former science and STEM teachers, and we're always looking for new volunteers.
Fantastic. Thank you for all of you sharing those backgrounds. I have another question that came in from one of our guests. Research has shown that pre-post activities can be critical in enhancing informal learning experiences. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Pete and Stacy are looking at each other. Sure. Tell you what we're not impressed by. We're not impressed by scavenger hunts, especially low thought process scavenger hunts, asking about how many eggs are in the dinosaur nest in the dinosaur exhibit. What's the point? What's the practical application of that? It's what, a judgment, a point to make students walk to the end of the dinosaur exhibit? If you have a scavenger hunt activity and it's asking for some higher order thinking, asking for students to make an observation of a phenomena or a display or an encounter and then draw a conclusion from it, or express an opinion, or create an argument in favor of or against what the text describes. We're impressed by those kinds of activities. As far as pre-visit and post-visit, occasionally we do have an opportunity, either through a grant or a connection to a national effort, to make some of those materials available, but because they're not produced by us here at the Maryland Science Center, we're also aware that they vary in quality as well. One of the reasons to offer free admission to teachers at any point in the summer, on the weekend, even during a school day, if you're not here with a school group, is so that you will come in and take advantage of the opportunity to develop those activities for yourself to suit your purpose. Are you bringing your group here to introduce a concept? Are you bringing them here to review something that you've already done? Are you bringing them here in an effort to see and do it all and just keep moving through the museum because in your mind that may be the only time they have a chance to visit here? Based on that, you would develop your pre and post visit activities. I'd encourage you perhaps not to neglect the fact that the transportation that you use to get here is also an opportunity for pre and post visit experiences that you can have students pay attention to their surroundings as they make the trip and get their minds and focus set for the experience that they're going to have when they're here.
I'd also add that we have been experimenting a little bit with this. We were experimenting with it before, obviously we closed because of COVID. And so there are a couple different opportunities on our website where the Common Core math connected activities, where it allows you, it invites you to have your students do something specific here and then go back and finish the activity. And we've even offered up that if you confirm for us you finished it, we'll even send you a certificate to acknowledge the fact that your group or your class did everything in this sort of group of activities. So we experimented with a couple of those around Common Core math that are available, and then a couple sort of targeted field trips that we have on there. So we have, off the top of my head, there's a kindergarten one that is specifically talking about sort of balls and ramps and what happens. And we encourage and provide opportunities for kids to sort of have the same experience across the building and then to go back and talk about it. So we've been experimenting a little bit with that, and then also monitoring how much that's actually being used to figure out if we should keep going for it.
Great. Two more questions. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will get to them momentarily. The next question is, I have a summer program that will be focusing on plants this summer. I doubt we'll be permitted to take field trips to the Science Center, but would the Science Center be able to visit our program to present an outreach program?
It's an open conversation. I'm happy to have you reach out to me, and I put my information in the chat. You know, we would need to understand, to answer specifically, we would need to understand a little bit more about sort of where your program is and some of the confines of it. But there may be opportunity for us to minimally help with some fun resources, or maybe something virtual. You know, there's a whole gamut of opportunity that might exist, especially because we're talking about this in March, February, where are we? For summer. That gives us some opportunity to consider our options. It's easier for us to think about pivoting when we have a little bit of time.
Great. Next we have, is free admission available for current college students in the College of Education program at Towson University?
Well, I'll take that one. Traditionally, I would say that the free admission ends at 12th grade, but we'll make a decision here and say that any member of the College of Education, present student, is welcome to come to the Science Center for free. We will need your ID, that's all.
Very generous, Mark. Thank you so much for that opportunity. I know our students will definitely take advantage of it. Last question we have, what areas of the museum are most visited by visitors?
Stacy, I think you're sitting in it, right?
I'm probably sitting here, actually sitting in our kids' room, which is a 0 to 8 play space that we have. It is a very well thought out space, and I say that because I didn't do the thinking. We'll credit Pete and a good team for that. But it is a space that is specifically designed for kids to learn through play, for caregivers to be good supporters of their students. And this is by far the most popular. So it is a 550-gallon water play, where kids can experiment with ramps and levers and learn a little bit about, you know, how water moves. You can practice putting dams in. And so this area is highly popular. I would also say our dinosaur exhibit where Pete is highly iconic. And then our Newton's Alley exhibit, which is just an opportunity to really experience physics phenomena in a one-off experience. And that it sort of appeals to everybody from birth through adult.
I would add that it's sometimes hard to determine popularity or where most of our visitors spend their time. But one of the ways we do that is by where the carpet is worn. And so if you want to know about which things are popular, walk through the museum, and wherever the carpet looks like it most needs to be replaced, that's probably where most of our visitors are spending most of their time.
That's a great point. We have another question that just came in. What are some of the most popular events at the Science Center?
We have most popular for families. We have monthly promotional days. And so those are sort of theme-based days. February was Astro Adventure. In March, on March 14th, we will celebrate Pi Day 3.14 with some fun, quirky activities. You know, we have events like Mess Fest and Bubble Days. And so opportunities for families to just really engage on a very specific thing for a few hours while also enjoying the museum. But we also, at this point, previous to quarantine, had found great promise in our adult programming. So we were running adult programming that was related to pop culture. One of our most popular was the Music Under the Dome, where we would play music and have connected graphics in our planetarium. So we could take you through a trip through the night sky while we were playing Stairway to Heaven for you, and all kinds of fun experiences there. So our adult programming was a huge hit. We look forward to when we can return to that. But on a family basis, I think our promo days are really something that's very popular.
I can speak from experience, also with an adult programming, pre-pandemic, their summer solstice event, their fundraiser. If you haven't been, it is well worth it. Obviously, it raises money for a fantastic cause, but it is an unbelievable event, very, very, very well done. We have another question. Do you have any special events or program adaptations for special needs students?
For programs, we always encourage folks to be upfront with us and tell us and identify the needs. And generally, our reservation staff are really good at sort of helping you talk through that. But if it's beyond, you know, some minor adjustments, they're happy to turn you over to our folks in charge of school programs who have made all kinds of accommodations. The biggest thing for that is we just have to know that. And again, it's best if we know that with a little bit of lead time. But we're happy to make adaptations. We're also happy to talk to people if they're on personal visits and encourage them. We know a lot about the museum flow. We know when things are busy, when things are not. We know where the quiet spaces are versus not. And so our guest services staff is really good at identifying that. So if you communicate that, we're more than happy to help you figure that out, again, especially on the front end.
Great. I think that's our last question. I want to thank the three of you for joining us and leading us through this fantastic discussion. I hope everyone enjoyed the session as much as I did, and you're leaving with a new perspective and some ideas you can put into place right away. I'd once again like to thank Dean Laurie Mullen for her support on this event. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone that we're still raising money for the Student Emergency Fund, Emergency and Food Insecurity Fund. Every gift counts and makes a difference no matter the size. These gifts can go directly to our students to help them, especially right now during the remote learning. It helps them with internet access, laptops, supplies, webcams, and other technology that are critical right now in their education. You can make a gift by clicking the link that I just shared in the chat. We hope you can join us for some of our other upcoming virtual events that we have coming up. On March 9th, we have a panel discussion from a bunch of TU alumni who are sharing their experiences as women holding leadership positions, which is just going to be a fantastic session. So I suggest you all take advantage of that. On March 11th, we'll be hosting a fun St. Patrick's Day themed mixology class. So make sure you sign up. It's going to be great. We learn to make drinks and then we drink them. And then on March 23rd, we're hosting a fantastic look at artificial intelligence in the workplace. You can register and learn more about all of our events at alumni.towson.edu/events. Make sure you follow the TU Alumni Association on social media channels and on Tiger Connect, our alumni community. These details are posted on your screen now. Again, we want to thank everybody for being here today, especially our folks from the Maryland Science Center. We hope to see you all again very, very soon. Have a great day, everyone.